But welcome back, guys, to another episode of Finance and Vibes. You've got OC here, you've got Joe, you've got Ife. We've got a nice topic for you guys today, obviously, something that everyone's been talking about, cryptocurrencies. Also going to talk about real estate versus crypto. And, I don't think it has to be one versus the other. I think if you can, definitely do both. I do both. But we're going to just talk about some of the good, nice parts that come with investing in both. And yeah, we're just going to get into it. So before I get started, it's a passionate topic for me. I'm just going to see what Ife and Joe has to say. And also shout out to everyone, by the way, for, seeing the views on and the feedback from the first two episodes. It's been positive. So we're just going to keep it going. And yeah, so if you haven't already, make sure you check out the first two episodes. And yeah, it's about to be lit. All right, Joe, what you got for us today? Real estate versus crypto, or real estate and crypto. Let's not make it a versus thing. What you got for us?
Yeah, so it's been in a new circle the last couple of months. Crypto has been on I don't even know what to call it. This is like some historic shit, you feel me? Yeah, but my main question with crypto, and me and OC had this conversation privately, was the Bitcoin miners, you get what I'm saying? And the concentration of the mining in China and different places. You get what I'm saying? And when it comes to energy, how we going to what does the future look like when it comes to the energy consumption and things like that? Then on the end of real estate, I just wanted to know, obviously real estate has different strategies you could go to, house hacking, long-term rentals and stuff like that. We could talk about that. I want to talk about that. Then also when guys, how the internet personalities make it seem like there's the barrier for entry to real estate is easy. Do this, you could just get a loan. You get what I'm trying to say? All the things on the internet. So those are the things I want to talk about, and pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, before David goes down the rabbit hole, because he's gonna go down the rabbit hole this episode. They're just so in general, we have people that believe that crypto and real estate have a lot of negative factors. For instance, we have the people that believe, nobody should have more than one property when there's homelessness on the streets. How do you address those people? What do you say to those people? And then we have the factors in crypto. Before I started investing in crypto, this is before anybody, I don't want to say anybody, before I knew what crypto was really being used for, I was like, bro, damn, this can fund terrorism, or the energy consumption, or it's bad for the environment. I want you to address these negative. Okay, assuming I was one of these non-advocates, what would you say to me?
Okay, so let's start with crypto, because I think that's the one that real estate has been here forever. It's always been a thing. Crypto is fairly. So let's talk about cryptocurrencies. And obviously, to understand cryptocurrencies, first thing you need to do is understand what a blockchain is and understand Bitcoin, because obviously that's the first cryptocurrency. Bitcoin, and I'll say there's some resources, and we could put it in the link, but it's called The Bullish Case for Bitcoin by Vijay Boyapati. It's a WordPress. If you follow me on my Patreon or follow me on my social media, Easy Finances for You. So easy, the letter E, the letter Z, finances, the number 4, the letter U. On IG and Twitter, you see that I talk about this all the time. But you need to start with the fundamentals. So we don't have enough time to dive deep into a blockchain, but simply put, I'm going to put it in a very basic level for anyone listening to understand. A blockchain is just think of it like a network, and it's literally made up of blocks that contains hashes of data, and is connected by chains, which essentially is tied into it transfers information from one block to the other, and each subsequent block contains information from the previous block. And I'm just trying to make this as simple as I can, because I'm not trying to get too technical, but that's important, because if you can transfer information sequentially from one block to the other and do it in a way that is randomized and effective and there's no bias, that's the whole premise behind exchanging currency from myself to another person, from person A to person B. because the whole idea now with how we send money on Cash App, how we send money on Zelle, or even through bank accounts, there needs to be that central authority or a bank that verifies the transactions, approves it, and then will take the money from OC and send it to Ether. The whole point of a blockchain is let's remove that need for a central authority. Let's make it on a blockchain, a public network, because transactions are public. And, so I can look up transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain, provided I have the information that I need, the ID that I need publicly. And it's also, so it's decentralized because I've removed the need for that central. Granted, there are people who run the nodes and the miners who verify transactions, but that is all decentralized and randomized to an extent, and it's immutable because I always laugh when people say, "Oh, Bitcoin funds terrorism." Of course, so Bitcoin.
That's a part of life.
I think it got that premise because, and no. Let's address that for a little bit here. So the whole premise behind the Bitcoin, why it got that bad rep, was because prior to when it became
mainstream.
Public adoption, mainstream, right? It was used a lot on the dark webs. And the reason why it was used is because of that very reason. It removed the need for a central authority. So obviously, if you think about it, if I was a terrorist and I wanted to send money, I probably would not send it through Bank of America where there's a central authority verifying transactions. However, I'll probably send it through a decentralized system where of course, even though my transaction is public, but it's not going through a central authority. But now that obviously comes with the territory. When you're proposing something that is decentralized, it comes with the territory. That said, there's obviously more conversations on how to better regulate to avoid these things. But then I'll also bring it back to, let's talk about the US dollar. Let's talk about regular fiat currency. We're talking like there is no fraud, even with the central authorities, quote unquote, the Federal Reserve, the banks. We're talking about there's no fraudulent activities. Like the banks have accumulated over $209 billion worth in fines in the past 5 to 6 years because of fraudulent activities. So when you think about that, I'm like, okay, billion. Pot calling kettle black. Like, yes, it's been a currency of choice, especially when you look at that fact that it's decentralized, but then it's really a case of pot calling kettle black because it's like, okay, that the US dollar has been used for similar fraudulent activities and so on and so forth. But anyways, going back to the whole story behind Bitcoin and blockchain. So again, the value proposition here is decentralized, it's immutable, and it's a store of value as well because Bitcoin has a fixed supply of 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be. And also when you consider the fact that there is to some level deflationary aspect in the sense that people will lose their keys, so Bitcoins will be lost forever in the interwebs and probably not recovered. So even though the supply is capped at 21 million, the actual in circulation and that is accessible might actually be much lower. And so with that, and also when you even consider like 50 years from now, when a lot of us who own Bitcoins will probably pass away, there'll be those people who haven't like properly set up their Bitcoins to be inherited by their dependents. And so when you consider all those, there's that deflationary aspect. Now, also Bitcoin runs on something they call proof of work. So proof of work in the sense that they're miners. So the whole point of proof of work is that you solve a cryptography math function that is super randomized, and whoever solves the function first is the one that's rewarded with Bitcoin. Is a Bitcoin halving. I'm getting too technical now, but
all right, hold on.
I want people to understand in general.
Let me
Yeah.
because I'm trying to understand, right? So I'm gonna summarize like my understanding of what you said, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, or correct me wherever, right? So basically, you're saying centralized, decentralized. From my computer background,
centralized, decentralized.
Yeah, when you say something is centralized, let's say like a company like Amazon, they have a server, right? So that's one place where all the information goes to and disperses to every other person's like network and computer. That's centralized, right?
Correct.
But decentralized in the terms of peer-to-peer. So like there's no server.
Peer-to-peer, correct.
And like everything just goes straight to people's computers or random systems.
Right. So there are nodes. There are nodes that maintain the Bitcoin network. But it's a peer. You said something. It was a peer to their nodes. Yes, their nodes, which essentially a processing power via terahashes per second. So you can buy an ASIC. That's what they use to mine Bitcoin. So there are nodes, what they call nodes, that run and maintain the network, and it's a peer-to-peer style. So basically, it's not like one person has more authority than the others. It's correlated. Right, it's correlated directly to your processing power. For the proof of work network, the proof of work consensus that Bitcoin network runs on, your chances of successfully solving the cryptography function for transactions and to get rewarded with
Bitcoin.
Yeah, so blocks to the blockchain is directly correlated to your processing power.
Yeah, that was when we had that conversation, right? What my thought process was at that time. What is stopping like a dominant power like the US government? They have access to all the manpower, the technology, and to control the processing power. You get what I'm saying? Or like Russia.
What you're proposing now is called a 51% attack. And that's a very, very, very valid point. And if you go on my Twitter, I don't know if people saw it. I spoke on my Twitter this week about the load to power ratio of the Bitcoin network versus the load to power ratio of the Ethereum blockchain. And we're talking about a 51% attack. So basically, I believe last I checked, I believe the Bitcoin network was running on something along the lines of. So let's talk about Bitcoin's economic security, which is directly related to the total hash rate per second of the Bitcoin network, which is currently, whenever I'm checking my notes now, 160 million terahashes per second as of March 27, 2021, because obviously this will grow and expand over time. As of March 27, 2021, the current Bitcoin network, which directly correlated to the mining capacity, is 160 million terahashes per second. On average, so this is looking at the entire globe. It varies by region. So for instance, in the US, it's something more along the lines of 60 to 90. And China's down low is like 35 to 30. And also given that the majority of the mining capacity is in China, on average, they say like a terahash per second will run you about $30.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you do 160 million times 30 is about 5 billion. So basically you're right. So so the Bitcoin's economic security for the network. So what you just talked about is what prevents a government like the USA from doing that is called the economic security of the network, and that is correlated to how much does someone need to invest. So someone to essentially attack the network, the Bitcoin network, a 51% attack, that's basically when you have majority consensus. And when you have majority consensus, you can do crazy things like, so people always say, oh, you can never have more than 21 million Bitcoins. That's technically not true. You just need to reach majority consensus to do that. And to reach majority consensus, that's part of the 51% attack, right? And so you need 5 billion. So essentially that's the 160 million terahashes per second times $30. You need 5 billion US dollars to do that. So yes, you're right. So, that is the economic security of the network.
So that 5 billion, right? Is that directly correlating to the price of electricity, or like how cheap your electricity is, or that's something else?
Electricity really, so when you look at compared to the equipment itself versus, so processing power of the equipment versus the electricity, the cost of electricity is minimal. So like, so I think like if they did the analysis, I was watching a podcast, to do that technically, you need about $5-6 billion worth of the ASICs, the mining equipment, and it will run you about close to $10-15 million worth of electricity. Now, my question is, if you want to spend $5-6 billion in equipment, 10 to, let's even say $20 million worth of electricity will not be a huge, terrible deal compared to the equipment. So the cost compared to the equipment itself is minimal. But
quick question though. You said in order to get 51% consensus, basically, you need $5 billion. But that's not a problem to these countries to pull $5 billion.
Yeah, it is not. But the thing is, I'm not too versed on this. I'm not too versed on how the Bitcoin network does it. I was going to talk about the Ethereum network, and that's the one that I know quite a bit more about, and like how they would handle a 51% attack. I think the idea is like if they're able to locate. So the difficulty is actually it might be harder because technically, when you post a block, you can mine it and you can send me the details and I post it. So obviously when I post it, they can locate me, but they can't necessarily locate you. So technically, if I'm the one that's doing a 51% attack, it's harder to locate on a Bitcoin network versus an Ethereum network. Now, I don't know the details. I believe there's a way, there are measures that the network has where if they locate whoever is attacking, then you can essentially cut the person off. I'm not terribly sure, but with proof of stake, it's easier because the proof of stake, I was going to get to that. So Ethereum has much less market cap than Bitcoin. I believe it's about 200 to 250 million, 200 to 250 billion market cap. Really, it's about 200 billion now, a little less because of this pullback. But let's talk about the economic security of Ethereum. Ethereum is proof of stake. So I'm talking about Ethereum proof of stake now. So I'm talking, we haven't went live on the main net, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
So Ethereum proof of stake network is directly correlated to, we're not necessarily looking at equipment or buying mining equipment and then mining equipment processing power to solve cryptography functions. It's more, so you're still, it's called forging versus mining because you're forging a block versus mining. And yes, you're still solving math functions, but now your chances of getting the reward is directly correlated to how much you staked in the network. So right now, the Ethereum 2.0 or proof of staking is occurring on the Beacon chain. And there's over $6 billion worth of Ethereum that has been staked on the Beacon chain. And I want people to understand this very carefully. There is $6 billion worth of Ethereum, ETH staked on the Ethereum network Beacon chain. To do a 51% attack on Ether, this is where it gets really nice. And I want people to understand this. You would need, obviously, you need to have 6 billion. So you need more money to attack the Ethereum proof of stake network as is right now compared to the Bitcoin network.
Yeah.
Now we need to understand that. You need more funds to, even though it's a fifth of the market cap, Bitcoin's at like $1 trillion. Ethereum is at 200 billion. So even though it's a fifth, 1/5 of the Bitcoin's market cap, you need almost $1 billion more to attack the Ethereum network versus the Bitcoin network. And why Ethereum network is even better is because of staking, your attack is directly correlated to, so because of the staking, to attack one, you need to get the mining equipment, which is off the blockchain, okay? It's off the blockchain. To attack Ethereum is directly correlated to the amount you stake, which is on the blockchain. So it's easier to locate, whether or not you post, it's easier to locate who is doing the attack in the event of a 51% attack on the Ethereum blockchain versus the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense.
And in the event with the proof of stake, if someone is attacking, you can simply just remove their stake and burn it on the network.
So they lose their $6 billion?
They lose their $6 billion.
Leave, bro.
But because it's easier to locate, you can burn it on the network. They lose their $6 billion worth of Ether. But here's the fun part for those who are Ether holders. In the event of a 51% attack, you severely, almost by 50%, because I'm assuming that, let's do a quick math. The idea here is that the assumption is that when POS is fully live, right, at least 10% of the Ether circulation will be staked in the network. At least 10%. Yeah. That's the estimation. So let's just say for simplicity, let's just say in a simple case, there's only 100 Ether, right? 10% is staked in the network, so that'll be 10 Ether, right? Yeah. Are y'all following me? I hope y'all follow me. This is where it gets fun. There's 100 total in circulation. 10% is staked in the network. So there's 100 staked in the network, 90 circulation. If someone wants to attack the network, they need to go and purchase at least 10 ether from circulation to then stake into the network. So they'll need to get 10 ether. So the attacker will have 10, the beacon chain will have 10, and then its circulation will be 80.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
When they burn off the attacker's 10, how much becomes in supply? Total. We go from 100 to 90.
Yeah.
So for each attack, the amount of ether in circulation, obviously we can talk about EIP 1559, so we'll get there later. But for each attack, the amount of ether in circulation decreases. From the law of demand and supply, a decrease in supply with fixed demand or higher means price will go up. So for each subsequent, it gets more and more costly because if the person wants to attack again, they need to go and buy another 10. But now they're buying another 10 with only 90 in supply versus 100 in supply the first time. So it becomes more and more costly because supply will decrease. With EIP 1559, Ether has set its place to become deflationary in nature already. So already deflationary assets with a decreasing supply with each subsequent attack means it become more and more costly for each subsequent attack and less motivation to do so because it's easier to spot an attacker on a proof of stake network versus a proof of work network. Do y'all see how that's mind-blowing in terms of economic security of the Ethereum network versus the Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like why? That's like my head is still trying to process it. But what I appreciate is like the game theory involved in all of this. You get what I'm saying? There's so much game theory. Exactly. And I think I'm not sure it's covered on all ends, but like I think it's pretty much secure to like a high extent. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel that.
Vitalik, the founder of Ethereum, is big on game theory.
Yeah, okay.
He's big on
I don't know too much about that though. About Vitalik though, but I have to look into that. You just went on a rant right now. I'm trying to process it. Hold on. Before we go into because this is getting fun. I have a little question, right? Like over the last week, I was looking into. I'm still trying to process like just the regular Bitcoin transactions, but over like the last year, COVID and everything, there's been like a dozen of this Bitcoin loaning and lending businesses. You get what I'm trying to say? Yeah. And do you know too much about that? And like, I'm still trying to process. I can wrap my head around like the business model and stuff like that. Like, how does it work? And
we can talk about the biggest Bitcoin lending service right now is BlockFi. We could talk about BlockFi.
All right.
So it's simple. The whole idea is, so BlockFi, I believe they have a 6% interest rate. The whole idea is very simple.
Yeah.
You give them you send your Bitcoin to them.
Mm-hmm.
They hold custody of your Bitcoin, and there's a transaction. There's a transaction like that verifies how much Bitcoin you sent to them.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. The whole idea is you can get US dollars loaned against the amount. You can send them USD, Theta, Bitcoin, whatever you send them.
Yeah.
But most times in the case, BlockFi is used for Bitcoin. And the whole idea is simple. I have one Bitcoin which is worth $55,000. I believe strongly that Bitcoin will be $100,000 at the end of the year. But I need to take $40,000 out now to pay for something that is pertinent in real life to my life. I don't want to liquidate my Bitcoin because, again, I believe this is an appreciating asset long term. So I will send my Bitcoin to BlockFi. I'll get a loan for $40,000 against my Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But I've sent to them, which is currently worth $55,000. The loan will have a 6% interest rate. And essentially, they are in custody of my Bitcoin. If I default on the loan, it's a win for BlockFi because they will keep my Bitcoin. And if I default on the loan, given the payment period, and they will keep my Bitcoin. And they also receiving interest on the money that they loan out. And they recently raised valuation. I think BlockFi is now at over $1 billion of valuation. So they're doing really well as a company.
So is the only form of collateral to say you have to put down Bitcoin, or could it be anything else?
I believe, I can't remember. I know a lot of people use them for Bitcoin, but I know they allow USD Theta and a couple of other things. Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah,
I
man, we
have
could
one
talk
last
about this.
question on Bitcoin. So I know many companies, Visa, Coinbase, they're trying to do this system where you can use like debit cards to buy things with your Bitcoin. Don't you think that's going to create some volatility in the? I mean, I don't know particularly, but like when people are buying through Bitcoin, don't you theoretically have to sell your Bitcoin for USDT or for US dollar to make that purchase in real time?
No. So basically, the whole idea is that if you're doing transactions in Bitcoin, the whole idea is that, first of all, I think what I saw actually was rewards in Bitcoin, similar to what Square is doing now.
Oh, okay.
So essentially, they're rewarding you Satoshis, which is Satoshi is a denomination of Bitcoin. But even if they're doing Bitcoin transactions, the whole idea is like, again, it's essential. Visa's essential system. They will collect the Bitcoin payments and settle the seller in US dollars.
Oh,
Okay, that makes
based
sense.
on the
makes
current
sense.
going rate. Based on the current going rate. So the whole reason why that's a big deal is because Visa, a payments company, is coming out to say, you know what, they want to begin accepting payments in Bitcoin because they'll probably collect the Bitcoin payments, and as Visa will just serve as a bank in that instance and settle the seller in USD. Or who knows, they might give the seller the option to receive payments in Bitcoin too. So who knows?
I mean,
But in a case like that, that's typically how it works.
That's kind of good
So it's just a simple
Visa, because if they collect,
it's good for Visa, yeah. It doesn't make sense for as a buyer. I would never, like, as much as I appreciate Elon saying now you can buy your Tesla in Bitcoin, I would never buy my Tesla with the Bitcoin.
Give him
because I know,
appreciating
like,
asset for depreciating
if I buy a $50,000 Tesla, which is a depreciating asset, just like George said, with one Bitcoin or almost one Bitcoin, in a year, I know that's going to be worth 120. So I would have spent.
Elon is crazy,
effectively, and in 10 years, one Bitcoin be, I'm very certain in 10 years, mark my words, a Bitcoin will be well over $1 million. So I would have spent over $1 million on a car that would probably in 10 years be worth nothing.
Yeah, I saw this dude, he posted something on Twitter. He said he bought his house, I think in 2011 for...
That was Chamat.
Yeah, he said he bought it for $1.5 million worth of Bitcoin. And I said,
yeah, and that's worth well over $60 million now. I think his house is only his house is only appreciated to $16 million or something like that. Yeah, so it was a very bad. He was like, it was a very bad purchase. Yeah,
I mean, you never know at the time though. Yeah, real estate. Let's talk
about real estate.
I have one more question, but we have to have an episode for this, bro, because I got questions like just coming in as we're going. You feel me? But let's go into real estate.
Do y'all want to do a part 2? Yeah, let's talk about real estate.
A part two.
Yeah, we gotta do a part 2. Another episode we could talk about Bitcoin. But again, if for those who are wondering, I'm bullish on Bitcoin, of course. I'm bullish on Ether. And if you're trying to find out the other two spaces in the cryptocurrency space I'm bullish on, if anyone knows what they are, subscribe to my Patreon.
Yes, sir.
And we can talk about it.
I'm going to put the link to the Patreon in one of these bubbles here so you can just click on it. So, yeah.
All right, real estate. Let's talk about real estate. Everybody want to be like, real estate market going to crash, yada, yada, yada. There are definitely bubbles. With everything, there's bubbles. Like, there was even with the cryptocurrency space, there have been a lot of things like the ICO raves, the CryptoKitty rave. I mean, I don't want to say NFT is a bubble because I can definitely.
Stay tuned for our next episode where we will continue our current discussion on cryptocurrency and real estate.